Hi, we're here at IE Gallery in Edison, Washington, to talk to artist Robin Green about her recent body of work. This is for an exhibit that's called Plant Ghosts, A Tale of Love and Grief. And the exhibit involves both ceramic pieces and paintings on silk. And Robin, I want to thank you for coming up today.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
You too.
This has been an exhibit that has been really touching people a lot. You've had a lot of great response to this exhibit. And I have to say in particular the ceramics. And I think because maybe the way they're constructed, the way the methods you've come up with, maybe you'd like to talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. I will start out by saying that I've loved plants all my life.
Uh-huh.
Great love. And also in recent years, I've been taking a lot of long walks in my neighborhood, which is really green. I love it. And get to know people and places and cycles and what plants are doing what when. And I also started making clay, where I'd been a painter for a long time, and I started making clay relatively recently, just a few years ago, and it kind of all pulled together. I started collecting the plant parts, and usually when they're a little bit dry, or I experimented, but first I tried all kinds of things, but I came to this method of collecting plants and knowing what plant parts are going to work for me, and knowing how it's going to go, of putting the plant pieces that I take on my walk in a construction. And I didn't want to just glob them on like a decoration. I wanted them to be an integral part of the architecture of the object. So this is an
how
early,
did you do that?
Well, this is an early one, and I constructed this is called offering, and it's like you could hold it in your hand as an offering. But what's inside are leaves, and these are leaves that I collected on my walk. And each individual leaf was carefully either immersed or painted, or both, always painted with slip, which is a mixture of water and clay. And then I'd have to start inside the bowl and build it up. So I had to kind of see where each piece was going and kind of guess where it was going to end up in the future, which was fun and challenging and like a game, you know, how do you build it to get that way, to get what you want.
And so they can build on each other because
Exactly.
they get a little substance and weight to the body of the...
Exactly, but when you do that, the plant material gets wet and it becomes floppy, and the clay is floppy, so you only can do a few pieces at a time, and you insert it, and you have to put more layers of slip on it, not just one, and you have to wait for it to get exactly the right level of hardness before you start adding more, and then you know, it hardens a little bit, but not too much, and you can add more and more and more until you get the structure you want.
It's beautiful. And what happens when you fire it then?
When you fire it, usually there are at least 2 firings. Some of these have gone in through multiple firings, a lot more than that. The first firing, of course, is this firing, and they crack and break, and then you have to repair them, and then you put it in. You might put your glaze on then put it in again, and sometimes a lot more times after that. So I think this one went in at least a couple of times extra. Yeah.
And so the inside becomes, the plant is burned off then.
Right, exactly. The plant isn't really burned off all the way, which is really, I like a lot. I thought of them as just, you know, ash just kind of going out or something like that, but because they're all interior, they actually leave a pocket, and the ash becomes compressed in the shape of the thing that was there in
Hmm.
this case. And so there are compressed things that you can't see that look like the leaves of the original object, which
Mhm.
I just think is lovely. I love that they're there. So they are like little sepulchres. They
Yeah,
hold,
sepulchres, yeah.
they, yes, or an urn or something else that you would hold
Mhm.
a deceased ashes in,
Yeah.
and they hold something of the plant and the way it lived,
Mhm.
and they hold part of my love for it, the
Mhm.
plants.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I know some
Yeah.
people refer to that as like a fossil as well.
yeah, and it is sort of
Uh-huh.
a different kind of fossil. So, but you can't see it.
Yeah.
You just know. I just know it's there, and I know it's there because I broke some by mistake. And oh, lovely, that's there, right?
Yeah. And so that's where this title of Plant Ghosts. I'm going to just move around the room a little bit and show
Okay.
a few others.
Okay.
And if there's another one that you'd like us to focus on and talk about, what I love and what people are really responding to is the kind of I guess it's like an iridescence that the glaze has come up with. They're in all these very neutral, pale, ghostly kind of colors in a way. Do you mind coming over here? We could talk about, this is, I believe, you made with Lumaria? No.
Lunaria.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, yes.
And was this an earlier piece out of this body of work?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's called Embraced. Some people have even said they remind them of like underwater ruins from past cities like Atlantis or something.
I think that's fabulous.
Do
I
you?
really like that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
one of the things I think about as I make clay work, even more so than painting,
Uh-huh.
is that this is something that humans have been doing for millennia.
Yeah.
And that was maybe our first way of communicating, was making art on clay and rock and
Mhm.
collecting pigments for it. So I feel like we've always used art as a way to try to communicate something,
Yeah.
and my art is no different than
That's
that.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel connected to my prehistoric past.
Oh yeah. They
Yeah.
definitely carry that.
Yeah.
They definitely carry that. It's coming across beautifully. And maybe we'll pop back to a painting too, because I'm curious about you being able to talk for a minute about your connection of the three-dimensional and the painted pieces.
Okay.
Would
So
you like to
this
start
one?
with this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is called Away.
Right. And this is actually ginkgo. And
Ginkgo, okay.
yeah, which is a prehistoric plant.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, and one that does really well at filtering pollution as well.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, it was what?
Does pretty good at filtering pollution.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, but I just love them. I just
Yeah.
love the shape of them, and so on my walks also, and as part of my many years of looking at plants, I think about how they grow, and I think about how the individual leaves on a stem move in relationship to each other to just live and capture light. These is an image from the fall when there's actually still on the tree, but there's spacing out differently than they were earlier. And the colors and the texture of the paintings are definitely chosen to partner with the clay. They can be separate, each stands on their own, but as a group, I mean them to be very cohesive. and about the same thing.
They read that way. And you,
Yeah.
and you told me that there are many layers with the brush,
Yeah,
and which is just similar to the
right.
plant parts.
Right.
The clay slip is often brushed on, many layers.
Paintbrushes are my main tools.
Yeah.
I have drawers of them.
The paintbrush is, okay. and
Yeah, in
these-
both clay and painting, yeah.
That's cool, and that's unusual. And the other thing was, that fascinated me was, these are memories. The painting or the flat work, I think you told me, was more like a memory and a feeling about that work, the plants.
Right, mostly yes, because it's, yes, it is about having looked for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
A long time.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about what it was that I
Mhm.
saw that was really intriguing.
Yeah.
You know, pulling away the extraneous stuff, right? And just leaving the part that struck me in my memory as
Yeah.
being the part that mattered.
Yes. Well, these are, I'm going to take a little scan around the room. This is the most recent piece you brought to me, that you brought in, and
Right.
it's probably less glazing, if any glazing at all. I'm not.
No, there's a lot of glaze. It's just
Oh, there
because
is.
I discovered a way to do it to make it even more matte.
Make it more matte.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I put things in and out of the kiln, I don't know what's going to happen. and so you just hope for the best.
Yeah.
And your knowledge of your materials in anything really, your knowledge of the materials will lead you towards the next step.
Yeah.
And so this one is new to me, and I love it. Yeah.
Let me ask you something about your past career life.
Uh-huh.
You have a PhD in botany,
I do.
and that's science and research, which, if I understand, were you mostly a researcher?
Yes.
Is very exacting,
Uh-huh.
whereas this, from the way that you are talking about how you work with your clay, you like the surprises and the experimentation of it. It seems. Did you have that element in your past work with, or is that new in the art?
Well, okay. When you are a scientist, you look for a particular answer. You look for an answer to a very particular question. You narrow it down and hope that your experiments address that particular question.
Mm-hmm.
And you're supposed to not have anything invested
In the
answer.
outcome,
You just want the answer, but it's very exacting. But what I really loved about doing that work was I did like making a prediction and having it come true. That was super awesome. But and I like designing and doing experiments, but I like doing the experiment. I just like doing things and really not knowing, so that's what's going on here. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I was getting more into that rigid thinking of artists are experimental, scientists aren't, which is very stereotypical.
Oh, scientists are that's experiments.
Yeah.
And so I would say that being a scientist engaged my experimental nature, and being an artist really expanded it.
Oh, cool.
It made it better.
I can see that, because
Yeah.
that's like, I've gotten, at IE, we have quite a few artists who have been or are also scientists in their
Very cool.
other lives. So,
Yeah.
I love to have that myth shattered right here on the screen.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you'd like to add? I thought maybe we could do just a quick walk around of
Okay.
some of the pieces of whatever you like. This one is, here's a suite of 3 flat pieces.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to zoom up a little bit on the middle one. so the viewers can see the many layers of silk. Is there any reason that you prefer to use silk?
I love the textural quality of it, and I've been
Uh-huh.
working with it for a long time. My
Uh-huh.
last show here was
Yeah.
paintings on silk as well, but they were handled somewhat differently.
Completely.
I just did these differently.
And your last exhibit here had, your flat work was based on the grid, more so.
Yes.
And
yes.
here you've shattered that in some ways, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Which was also really fun to do, to just...
Yeah.
It's been really fun to work with plants again. It's
Yeah.
just, I love it,
Yeah,
I love having an excuse. This is my walks or my work, you know.
that's right. It
Yeah.
communicates a lot about your neighborhood, your community, your
Yeah.
daily
It's
practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one too is beautiful. I love when there's just a little touch of a color in there, but it's still a very ghostly palette. This is a good one. Do you mind picking this one up for a minute to really give people an idea of,
Do you want me to pick it up?
yeah, of the
Okay.
structure of what the actual, how you use that, their maple, what do you call them, seed pods?
Yes, seed pods, fruits. Yes. So, and you can see them. So maples make a kind of seed pod that's called a samara, and it's a V-shaped like this. This is one right here. This comes off this
I'm
part.
going to go in close here.
Comes off this part and this part.
Okay. So
Or
there.
this part and this part. And this is actually, a samara is really two seed pods together,
Huh.
which are joined at the apex there. where
You
they-
say it's ephemera?
Oh, what the plant is?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a kind of a maple, but it's a samara, isn't
Oh,
it? Samara is the name of the seed pod.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that word, Tamara. Okay.
Samara, S-A-M-A-R-A.
Samara.
Yeah. Some people pronounce it Samara.
Yeah.
This sort of likens back to the grid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very much. The grid is
Yeah.
still
yeah.
peeking its little head through a lot of this work.
I still love grids.
Yes.
And I liked how they're, I want all of this work, all the clay work. One thing I like about it that's different from the painting is it has this three-dimensional structure, but I like to see through it the same way I want to see through the silk.
Oh,
So
yeah.
one of the reasons I use silk is so that I can see the layers underneath.
Yeah.
And here I want to see. So it being leaky, and leaky is the name, is the point, because I wanted to see through it
Yes.
when I made it. So
Yeah.
uh,
And that's.
but it was also the same building process, starting at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
little by little. How do you construct that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a fun learning experience for me to
Hmm.
both figure out how to do it and to continue it. What can I do now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what can I do next?
Yeah, you kind of described it to me as the plants are defining the structure
They are.
instead
I have
of.
to work with them. Yeah.
Yes, it's more of a surrender on your part to
Exactly.
what is this that I have.
Exactly.
Um,
And I think that's respectful of the materials. Is essentially I'm creating the sepulchres of them. And
Yes.
and that has to hold the respect I have.
yeah,
And so yes.
yeah, they're kind of the boss, which is
Yeah.
the way it
Yes,
really is.
exactly.
Anyway,
Yeah.
huh.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a real treat to have you here to talk about it. And is there anything else you'd like to add? This will be the last weekend for the exhibit. So I'm going to send this out in an email tonight. So is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I guess we didn't talk about the grief part.
Oh, let's
Grief.
talk about that.
Yeah, just
Because the title.
really briefly is I do personally and have for some time felt a lot of grief about the changes that we're seeing in the planet, but we've known about global warming since I was in college, 40 years ago, and recently I went on a trip. I did my graduate work in jungles, and I recently went on a trip to revisit some jungles in Central America, and I felt so sad by the things that weren't there anymore. They weren't raised. It wasn't that they were gone entirely, like just a clear cut, although that does happen too, but these were preserved areas that were parks, and there were hardly any insects. It wasn't as wet. The fungi that helped degrade it were virtually absent. They were still there, but compared to before, where the jungles had been teeming with life, just breathing the air, all that was gone. And that trip was made shortly before I started doing this work, and I think it holds my feeling of just sad. However, I do think, seriously, that plants will survive us on this planet, and that makes me feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah, thanks so much for talking about that. That's a really important part of this, the title being A Tale of Love and Grief.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Robin. It's a
You're
beautiful
welcome.
show,
Thank
and
you.
thanks for taking the time to talk to us.